Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 453 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How you doing this fine Monday, Richard? I know you got a little of the con crud or whatever. Are you feeling better after our Vegas trip?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the con crud or just my son's daycare crud, but I was a little under the weather this week. I'm recovered. Good to be podcasting back in the comfort of our office instead of in a dingy hotel room. But that was fun. We're back at the grind.
It was a fun week, and we're back to normal now, including Krim. How's it going today, Krim? Welcome back home. Hopefully everything is going well.
Yeah, it's going extremely well. And I had a fun weekend, but dodged the con crud, luckily. Dodged COVID and all of that as well. So, yeah, had a really fun weekend as on top of that.
Oh, good. Well, anyway, as far as Magic today, we got a couple of different topics to talk about. So this weekend is Arena Championship 4, and it's going to be historic. So I want to talk a little bit about where historic's at, what we should be expecting at the Arena Championship, and then we have a ton of spoilers. We got a bunch of Ixalan stuff that we didn't get to last week because we were in Vegas. We just got a bunch more Doctor Who spoilers today, and then answering some fish mail. So that's the overview for today. Before we jump into it, though, a reminder that today's show's been brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. And if you ever get tired of all the hassles that go into buy listing your cards, Card Conduit lets you skip them. You don't have to spend all the time and do the typing and the work. You can use their curated service to send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use the sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once the order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thanks so much to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic, and let's start with Arena Championship number 4, and then we will jump into all the spoiler stuff. So this weekend, Arena Championship, it's going to be Wilds of Eldraine draft mixed with Historic Constructed. It's actually a pretty big tournament. This is like the Arena Pro Tour, essentially, $200,000 in the prize pool. So it's actually like a pretty big tournament as far as Arena goes. My question, though, is what are we expecting in Historic, Krim? Like, Historic, it's in such an interesting spot. We just got Wilds of Eldraine, but there's still Bowmasters and Sheoldreds and One Rings and all the Lord of the Rings stuff, which are in Historic. What should we be expecting at this event, Historic-wise? What's good in the format at the moment?
Probably anything that I'm expecting a lot of damage prevention. Just because, sorry, not damage prevention of damage prevention. So Questing Beast, Stomp.
I see.
Yeah,
so
One Ring counters.
Bad fog meta. Don't play fogs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Really worry about fogs. That's totally it. No. I mean, we're gonna probably see a lot of people pack Stomps and things like that. I think, on top of that, I think like cards like, or decks like Bard class that got popular, right, in Pioneer. And because of how like strong Bard class has also been in Historic, because I recently did a video for the website, and the deck pops off. It got a bunch of new legendaries. I think that could be pretty cool. And just things that don't get pinged by Bowmaster.
Oh, speaking of things that don't get pinged by Bowmaster, what do you think about Mono Green? I feel like Mono Green is a deck that, like, Mono Green Devotion, like, it was really good in Historic, but then Bowmasters came around and all the mana dorks started dying and it got much less popular. But then they released Enchanted Tales, and along with it was Utopia Sprawl. So now you can play Mono Green and still essentially have your mana dorks, but have them not die to Bowmaster. So I've been seeing a lot more Mono Green on the ladder recently. I think the deck's really had a resurgence. Should we be expecting that to be like one of the big decks, or is that more of a ladder deck than a like people take it to an Arena Championship style deck?
I think it's more of a especially. I actually think it's really good on the ladder, just because it's just nice big events to have decks that get free wins, and again, that deck is face roll and it works, right? Like it's long tournaments, long days. You want decks that just give you free W's. And I think that deck just has those absurd starts.
Oh yeah, you can get off to ridiculous starts with Utopia Sprawl into Kiora and Nykthos, and you're just like casting Storm the Festival on turn 3 or whatever. Like that deck can go off really, really hard. What about Rakdos? So Rakdos was the monster of the format, but then they rebalanced Crucius, and I will give Wizards credit. We memed a little bit on like the rebalance just being dropping its toughness from 3 to 1, but it actually has like really helped. I still see Rakdos, but I also see more of a diversity of black decks now. You see mono black, you see Golgari, you see all these different flavors, because it's no longer like Crucius is so strong you have to be in red to have Crucius in your deck. What do you think about Rakdos? And what do you think about black decks? Like, black is still very good, obviously, with Shieldred and Bowmasters. It fits the One Ring really well. Should we be expecting a lot of black decks? And which color combination would you play if you're going to go black mid-range?
I mean, obviously you play Grixis, right? No, okay. But Bolas is legal. Did you know that? Do people know that? Why?
It is.
Why don't more people play that card? I'm so curious. But yeah, probably if you're gonna be sweaty, shave the blue and just go Rakdos. Though I do think Rakdos is solid. It's just got everything you want, and it's got all the good threats. Rakdos is just. It was all we saw in Standard for a while, and Pioneer, and like it feels like in 60 card formats, red and black have just gotten the best cards over the last 4 years, 5 years. I don't know. It feels like it's been like 50. But like those are just the best colors. So you play it if you're going mid range, you want the good stuff. It's got everything, and you know what? It's got the mana colors to support the One Ring. Every deck does.
What do you think, Richard? Any thoughts on Historic or the Arena Championship in general? Is this event people should be hyped for? Like, OP is like so split up now that it's hard to know what tournaments really matter. It's like card styles. How do you know which one's like the good card style? Because there's so many of them. I feel like tournaments are like a little like that, but what do you think about all this?
So I was listening to you guys talk about this, and I didn't know if you guys were talking about Standard or Modern, or you're talking about like Bowmasters, One Ring, like OP Rakdos. I'm like, what are we talking about? I'm like, oh, literally every format, like Krim said, since all those cards kind of go through the whole chain, right? From Shieldred, even the direct to modern cards are like on Arena, so that's interesting. Do people care? I don't know. We're gonna find out what the numbers. Like for me personally, the big A, the alchemy cards, put a damper on this. If there were not alchemy cards here, I would be curious as to like, what does this card pool do? But because we have random alchemy cards and rebalances, I know they will dominate, the format in one way or the other. And I just don't know what the cards do because I don't follow them. I do remember like memeing on Crucius, and Crucius got knocked into Bowmaster's range, right? I think Crucius was a 3/3. It became a 3/1. Like, that's Bowmaster's range, right? So I can see how that's a balanced card now. But do I want to see Bowmasters and One Rings? And the problem with Crucius is if you don't deal with it, you die, right? And that snowballing nature I really hate as well. But the answer is to just pack Bowmasters and your own One Ring and go to town, right? So I don't know. This doesn't sound exceptionally exciting. And if you're telling me the hero we all need is mono green, which was the boogeyman, and then you're like, oh wait, that's like Tron. We gotta bring Tron back to police the format. I don't know. This doesn't sound especially exciting to me, but maybe it is.
Do you know that there is literally Tron on Arena?
It does involve some alchemying, but
yeah. Well, Richard mentioned alchemy and Troning, and let me tell you something. On the ladder of Historic, it dumpsters the mid-range decks.
It should be. Oh, go ahead.
Is actual Tron?
Yeah,
Tron?
no, the actual Tron. Nobody knows this, but the actual Tron lands.
Do you need some alchemy mechanics to assemble this Tron?
Yeah,
there's like an alchemy card that shuffles into your deck or something. Tron pieces when it ETBs and attacks, something like that.
So
wait, literally Tron pieces, or like
literal Tron pieces, yeah.
And the best, it's a card called Urza's Construction Drone, And when it enters the battlefield, you conjure up the 3 Tron lands. And then you shuffle it in, and whenever you attack or when it dies, seek a Tron land.
Yeah.
Not even joking. And
That's not even that bad, but I don't know, man. This sounds like I'm watching the Unfinity Pro Tour or something, right? I don't know. We're like playing a serious game of Bowmasters and One Rings, and then Urza's construction drone hits the battlefield, and you're like, wait, what?
Yo, being completely honest here, like I despise the format of Alchemy, right? Like it did not do what I wanted to do, but I do think some of the cards are actually cool.
I mean,
the problem is we got to catch up on all the cards. I don't need to know anything about Historic, but like I know what Bowmasters, the One Ring, I know what Devotion and Nykthos do, and I can like piece together in my head what's gonna happen. But then you throw in these like Alchemy wild cards, and I'm like, wait, what is Seek again? Okay, hold on.
There aren't many wild cards.
What is the spell book? You know, what is this, like, choose a background thing into, like, 800 cards? Like, what is this? And I'm, like, confused, right? So that's kind of the problem. I can't picture what's going to happen.
I will say, though, like, I don't think you'll see that many Alchemy cards this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there
Yeah.
will be, like...
Crucius.
You'll see, like, Crucius if Rakdos shows up. Grizzled Huntmaster, the green 3-drop, is like occasionally like shows up in some of the green devotion decks, but really the format is like surprisingly Alchemy light as far as competitive stuff. If you go on the ladder, there's all kinds of people doing weird stuff with Alchemy cards, but most of them are not actually like super competitive, right, Krim? As far as like showing up at a huge Pro Tour level event, like it's a pretty small number of Alchemy cards that actually are that good at this point.
Yeah, it really is just Crucius, and maybe you might need to know a few rebalances, like I guess it's like not all Alchemy cards, right? Like in that new Alchemy cards, there are just some rebalances that had happened. Like sometimes I forget, it slips my mind that Meatball Massacre does not do what Meatball Massacre does.
Yeah, you
right?
see
what
Teferi
are the
Time
other
Raveler
key
2 is
rebalances?
rebalanced and shows up in some decks now. Like that's the other big one.
I think Meat Hook. In reality, it is just Meat Hook, right? Like that's the big rebalance.
And 4 Fairy, right?
Or 3 Fairy, which is now 4 Fairy. Yeah,
4 Fairy.
It's kind of fringe, but it shows up a little bit.
4 Fairy is a pet card, all right. You're more likely to like. Let's be honest here. That's definitely more of. You'll see but nothing. You'll see the gates. You'll see the gates from Alchemy. Where because Maze's End, you'll if you see Maze's End, you're gonna see the fancy gates from Baldur's Gate, but alchemyified.
Maze's End could be legit. I like Maze's End. That's actually like a pretty real deck at this point, thanks to Primeval Titan. I enjoy the format. I think it'll be entertaining to watch, just because it is different than any other competitive format. So I'm actually like kind of looking forward to like watching some of it. What about Limited, Richard? Have you done any Wilds of Eldraine? I know you mentioned like wanting to, but then we had Vegas and you got sick. You haven't done any drafting yet?
No, but then I also know that Limited never does well. Like we've had like some of the best draft formats like in existence, and like no one watches them. And it requires too much context. Like you kind of need to know the whole format to understand like the crazy decks people are building or what they're actually building towards and why their deck is so brilliant for whatever reason. Like you need to know every card and like every deck and every archetype and everything like that. So it's just too hard for the average person to understand. So I don't know, like, don't you all skip Limited too? Like I know the Pro Tour meme is we skip the first 4 hours of the Pro Tour, get some sleep in, and then start our day, right? Like
no
I
offense.
Wake up, watch the draft, and then go back to sleep while they play the Limited games.
Why would you watch the draft and not watch the games after?
Yeah,
that makes even less sense.
Drafting is interesting. I just like seeing what picks people make and like what people open, but the actual gameplay of Limited is so not interesting to me at all.
But you don't know what happens. What if their brilliant draft was actually terrible in practice? Because
I can look up look up the record later, see how they did.
I don't think I've ever watched a Limited portion. I'm gonna be really honest with you. Like even when I played, like at the Pro Tour, I feel like I wasn't even paying attention to the draft. Also explains why.
That explains a lot.
Krim never makes it constructed. He just scrubs on Limited every Pro Tour.
I'm not joking. I think that's why I do so bad. Because I'm like drafting it. I literally zone out.
The draft was actually the least interesting part for me. The gameplay
Really
was actually more. I would watch pros play like pre-con decks, right, where all pieces are known, because then you get to really see like the ins and out of like what they're doing and how they use their resources. That's like super sweaty magic, right? But like blocking, you remember when we blocked? Remember when combat matters? Like that's limited, and watching that I think is extremely interesting, and like how they actually sequence their cards and do that stuff. So as opposed to nowadays where you just ignore blockers, go face, remove, remove, attack, snowball out of control. But yeah.
Well, anyway, Arena Championship 4 this weekend is on Twitch. Check it out if you're interested in some Wilds of Eldraine Limited in also historic action. But we have about 1 million spoilers to talk about. So many spoiler cards. We missed some last week, and then we got a bunch more today. So, Richard, I'm going to jump it over to you. Let's start with Ixalan and go through those, and then we'll spend the rest of the cast talking about Doctor Who stuff.
All right. So you can check out all the previews at mtgpreviews.com. If you don't know, there's a button on top that says Change Set. So because we have so many sets being released simultaneously, when you're listening to this, you should be seeing Doctor Who, but you can switch it to Lost Caverns of Ixalan, which we're going to talk about real quick, and then we're going to jump over to Doctor Who. So, big splashy card from Lost Caverns, Ghalta, Stampede Tyrant. 5 green, 8 mana, 12/12, legendary creature, elder dinosaur, trample. When Ghalta enters the battlefield, put any number of creatures from your hand onto the battlefield.
What a flashy ability. Is this card good, though? Like, is this like just the most win more card ever? Like, I love the idea of this card, but you like ramp up to 8 mana, put this into play, dump more things into play. You already got a 12/12. Like, do you need like to dump your hand into play? I'm really curious. I haven't made up my mind if this is like busted because you can like reanimate it on turn 2 and just dump your hand of Atraxas and Atalis, or if it's just kind of like, oh, why wouldn't I like just play the Atali instead of getting this 12/12 out of it? I'm curious. Is this a competitive card, or is this just like the Timmy Commander card of the set?
I think it has legs to be competitive in that it'll be as good as the Reanimator deck it like normally is, right? It'll allow it. I don't know. This card seems so inconsistent, which is my only concern. Like, there'll be the games where you reanimate this, you dump your Titans, and you could load your deck up with a bunch of clunky things. And then there's the games where you'll have a bunch of clunky things and no Ghalta. So I can't get a read on it either, but I think if there is a home for it, at least standard, speaking standard, I am thinking it's going to be in a Reanimator deck. And yeah, like that feels where it's at its best.
I think it's probably broken in some way, right? I think it's pretty decent in the stompy way. Like you just like, okay, let's be real here. 12/12 trample is a lot. Okay, like you need to remove it. You're not blocking your way through. So if you just reanimate Ghalta or cast Ghalta, 8 is not unreasonable, and bring 1 buddy, that's fine. If you feel your opponent is not interacting with you, you can just dump your whole hand, like if you're not afraid of a Wrath. But you can also dump a combo into the battlefield, right? Like if you're playing Modern or Pioneer or something, you could dump like a 2 or 3 card creature combo onto the battlefield with this. So you can reanimate an entire combo with 1 reanimation spell. What are the odds of that? I don't know, right? Because you need like 2 or 3 card combo plus Ghalta plus reanimation and whatever, right? But I feel there's a lot of play to this because you don't have to like dump your whole hand. You can just put 1 creature. You can do some combo. Like, what if you just Disciple of Bolus and Ghalta or something, right? Just draw 12. Yeah. Like, I don't know, right? Like, I'm sure you could do something useful with this. And it's a 8 mana 12/12. Like, how bad can that be? Actually, probably pretty bad if you just Doomblade it. But it's decent. And it's an ETB. It's not a cast. So you can like definitely abuse it doing all these. Like if you like imagine Ghalta blink or something. I don't know what you're doing, but like you could blink to dodge removal, bring another buddy. The important thing is you can bring a haste enabler with Ghalta, right? So you bring a haste card with Ghalta, and then you just one shot someone out of nowhere. World Spide Worm, Xenagos type shenanigans, right? So
does that
I think
exist
Ghalta is going to be
standard?
pretty good.
Is there
Is
a
there one
haste
standard?
enabler? I'm trying to think here.
What is a haste enabler? I think there is, isn't there? Isn't there the
I think
3-drop
there is.
bushwhacker thing that ETBs and gives everything haste? One of the adventure cards, like I think there's got to be other
technically-
ones too, but I know that one exists.
It's the Boros one.
the Boros
sorry.
Adventure Uncommon, yeah.
Yeah. And it would actually be 13 power because it pumps everything else by 1.
Yep. And you could
But that's-
theoretically dump a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Naya
best.
OTK would be pretty fun.
It's gonna be best cheated into play. I was actually surprised this was not a cast trigger. Like, it has a pretty jaw-dropping ability. The fact that like you can just put your whole hand into play, and you can like flash this into play. You can natural order it into play. There's a lot of ways to like cheat a green creature into play. And if you have a handful of like big scary stuff, this card's gonna do like some spectacular things. I'm still not sure, like, I don't know how necessary it is. I'm still, like, on the fence whether it's, like, a win more card or, like, it's actually a competitive card. But there's certainly going to be games where you, like, cheat this into play and you're going to build just a ridiculous battlefield super early in the game, which is going to be super fun. It's a really cool design. And it seems like a Commander All-Star, too. Like, why would you not build around this as your mono green commander? Just ram into it, dump your hand. There's combos like Cloudstone Curio to keep looping it. Like, there's so many cool things you can do with this card.
But it's 8 mana. You know, it's hard for green to get there.
Oh, yeah, it's my poor green.
It only gives 3 devotion.
That's true.
Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah.
Okay, Huatli, Poet of Unity. 3 mana, 2/3. It's green, but it has a Boros activated ability. Get to that in a second. When Huatli enters a battlefield, search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle 3 hybrid Boros. So 5 mana to activate. Exile Huatli, return it to the battlefield, transformed, activate only as a sorcery. The backside is Surprise, a saga with 4 chapters. 1, create 2 3/3 green dinosaur creature tokens. 2, Roar of the Fifth People gains creatures you control, have tap, add Naya colors, 1 of Naya colors. 3, search your library for a dinosaur, reveal it, put in your hand. 4, dinosaurs you control gain double strike and trample until end of turn.
I think this card is hot garbage.
Really? Hot garbage?
It's not that bad. Wait,
How
actually, no,
bad
it
is
kinda
a 3-drop that grabs the land? You love Spirited Companions and Pilgrim's Eye and those effects, don't you, Richard? Like, isn't this, like, fine? Like, the front side's fine. It's not exciting, but...
Yeah,
it
but then
replaces
you're gonna get
itself.
baited into flipping it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Okay.
If you do flip it's strong, though.
The only home for it is like maybe Domain Ramp, but like Topiary Stomper is just better, right? Like if it put the land into play, I think that'd be something else, right? I more so care about that than the flip stuff. It's like, cool. Yeah, if you get to that, we'll worry about it then.
I mean, it seems built for a dinosaur deck, so it might be that we just haven't seen the pieces. The backside really wants you to be dinosaurs. It's going to be much less powerful. Like, I guess it works with itself because you get the 2 dinosaur tokens, but it's going to be at its best in a deck that's actually built around dinosaurs because dinosaurs are pretty big and tramply. So I imagine, like, you tutor up your Ghalta and put it into play, dump all your dinosaurs, hit the last lore counter, just kill everyone with double strike and trample on your big dinosaurs. That said, there is a concern about actually flipping it. We haven't really seen any of these flip cards really take off, have we, Krim? Like, the ones that see player like Rona, and you're playing Rona not to flip
Combo.
it, really. That's like your plan C or something when you just, like, have nothing else to do. We haven't really seen any of these be competitive, though, because it's so easy to get blown up by removal, especially with the only as a sorcery restriction.
Yeah, like, that's why, like, I think, well, Shealdred's good, right? Like, the 5-drop Shealdred. You see a little bit of that here and there, but why is that? That's because as soon as she hits the board, Shealdred does something like pretty solid.
Yeah.
For 3 mana, like, I mean, I don't know, like, what is it? The old Origins Nissa put a land into play, right? Or did it tutor a land?
It tutored a forest to your hand.
To hand? Okay. But that was easier to get to the Planeswalker side.
Yeah.
Because, so this, getting it to the backside doesn't even, like, mean that you auto like win either, that your opponent still has time. So I don't know. Like, that's why I just think that this card is not that good. It's to call it hot garbage may be aggressive, but it is aggressively medium. Like, it doesn't meh.
Like you had to sink 8 mana into this card to start getting to the backside stuff. So when you actually just think of it as 8 mana, it gets a lot less exciting, right? But if you somehow manage to get this going and it didn't blow up and you got the stuff, then yeah, like it's actually kind of decent, right? But it's just really expensive and a lot can go wrong, right? Because people can kill the Huatli on the way down, right, or whatever, right? So yeah. Oger Axonal. Deepest Might, red card, 4 mana, 4/4, legendary creature god. Trample. If a red source you control would deal damage or deal amount of non-combat damage less than Oger's power to an opponent, that source deals damage equal to Oger's power instead. When Oger dies, returns to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control. The backside is a land. Taps to add a red. 3 mana, tap, transform it. Activate only the red source you control, dealt 4 or more non-combat damage this turn and only as a sorcery. So essentially, it just rounds up your non-combat damage to its power, which is 4 by default.
I think this card is very overrated for 60 card formats. It's a cool design. It's a cool design. And the idea of like, oh, I'm going to gut shot you for 4 a bunch of times. Like, it can do cool things. I have just got burnt so many times by like Soltham, by Urabrask. Every time a set comes out, there's this like bomby red mythic that's like, oh, that's going to be perfect for a burn deck. And I build it and it's the worst card in my deck every time because it's 4 mana and then I play it and it just dies or I never even get to 4 mana. So I think there's like combos and stuff, but I actually think the idea of like, oh, this is gonna like make burn a thing in standard or whatever, I'm very skeptical based on my experiences with these other similar red mythics.
But I mean, if you've been burnt so many times, then isn't this card good in that deck? Like, I mean, like in all reality, I do think this card is probably better than all the cards you have mentioned. Solfim, right? Like all of that. Like I always forget about Urabrask.
It does have protection, right? Because you get a land if it dies. So at least it does something when your opponent inevitably goes for the throat it.
Yeah, like it dying. Like, because before it was just like, yeah, you would spend 4 mana, or even worse, you would spend 5 mana because you play Solfim, and then you do all the things required, and then you get blown out with the ability on the stack, right? But like this card just is solid on its own, and when it flips over, it essentially ramps you, whether or not maybe a burn deck needs that right away. We're not really sure, because then you're hitting 5-6 mana range, and that means you're probably flooding. However, I do think this card is good. If there is a burn deck, this is in it.
I like it with like Thermal Alchemist and so forth. That's kind of cute. Like tap them to ping for 3 and like sling some spells. So I'm sure there's ways to build around it. But what do you think, Richard?
Y'all thinking too hard. Like, you don't need a burn deck. You just need a red aggressive deck. Like, maybe with the pump spells or equipment. Like, imagine you just stick your rabbit battery or some nonsense onto this to give it to 5. Maybe you have a giant growth at 7, and now your gut shot now does 7 damage. Like, that's insane, right? And you don't need to sell out and just play all these like terrible like 1 damage spells.
Yeah.
You just need to play a sane normal deck, and if your stomp does 4 damage now, that's good, right? And I think the transform is a trap for 60 card formats, right? Because it transforms into a land. Your 5th land as a red aggressive deck is probably kind of useless. Yep. And then you got to deal 4 non-combat damage to get it back, right? And you probably aren't playing 4 damage spells if you're playing this, this card, because you want like more efficient and smaller burn spells so that you actually use its ability, right? So the transform is a bit of a trap for 60 card, but can you just not imagine? Like, just think of like the all-in like double striking like red decks, right? But now you don't double strike, you burn.
Not non-combat damage.
It is, you do gotta deal non-combat, but
non-combat damage
for the transform, right? So that's like impossible. Right?
No, for the front side as well.
Yeah, so you pump it, you deal like 7, and then you
Sure.
What's a 1 mana 7 damage
Play with
burn
fire.
spell that you know of? I don't know.
Okay. Maybe not 7,
right?
but like,
So I would actually play this with pump spells. And pump spells are a little sus. So maybe you play with equipment. That's like less suspect, right? Like that's less all in, and you can like remember like Embercleave meta, like stuff like that, right? Like we just need some good equipment, and then this becomes exceptional, right? Like 1 mana 6 damage, 1 mana 7 damage, 2 mana 7 damage.
It does interact really well with Red Virtue, I think. Because Red Virtue likes
Yeah.
having a lot of mana, the enchantment side, because it's going to generate card advantage. So I think that's like a shell where having an extra land is pretty valuable in your mono red deck.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
The Skullspore Nexus. It's a green legendary artifact. 6 green. So 8 mana. The spell costs X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Sounds like the Great Henge already. This is greatest power, though, so not some. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a green fungus dinosaur creature token with base power and toughness, each equal to the total power of those creatures. 2 and tap. Double target creature's power until end of turn.
Isn't this card kind of busted?
So Timmy.
It like protects
So
your
when
board.
a creature dies, you make a creature with base power and toughness equal to the power of that creature, and you get to double it for fun.
For fun.
This is like the most stompy deck like tool I've ever seen in my life, right? Like this is the Commander 60 whatever format it is. I like this if you're a fan of stompy decks. I also think that it itself having that activated ability to double target creature's power is pretty fun, but it is definitely not the same power level of Great Henge. But you know, what is?
It's not drawing you cards, so it's not Great Henge good, but still like. So the downside is we're in this like super exile wrath world right now with Sunfalls and Farewells, which is like kind of pretty bad for this card. But in normal
Straight
world,
up just
like,
ossification.
Isn't this your like wrath protection kind of? Like you're playing a bunch of big green things, you slam this, if your opponent goes for the throat, you just get another creature with the same stats essentially. If your opponent wraths your board, you're getting a massive creature. I feel like it could definitely have a role in 60 card formats. Maybe this is the card that makes mono green good finally.
I don't think this is what makes mono green good finally, but you know, like I'm glad that this is the main problem right now. I don't know what mono green has to get, but mono green has been garbage for a very long time. Right? Like
it's true.
And like the only reason you see green in the standard is because we're ramping or because black decided to splash it.
But this is another good Up a Beanstalk card, right? You get the cost reduction, you got Up a Beanstalk, you like Top Gary Stomper to start ramping, get this down, Up a Beanstalk,
you could build your own Great Henge.
Yes, you're essentially trying to make a Great Henge.
You guys like to draw extra cards. What if I just plopped the power onto the battlefield with the ability to double again, right? Like, let's say you had like just a 6/6 dirtily dinosaur. Your opponent wants to kill it. You double its power to 12. It comes back as a 12/12 fungus, and then you attack if they don't have a blocker. That's 24 damage if you use Skullspore Nexus again. So this card is really scary. Unless Standard is moving into everything exiles, I think this makes the green deck. And we're getting dinosaurs. You know you're going to get good, efficient beaters in Standard. I think, Krim, get ready to mold. I think green is back. Green is coming.
I like this card.
Do you think this card
with the new Carnage Tyrant? There's going to be a new Carnage Tyrant.
Ooh.
There already is
that's
one.
That's going to be more uncounterable. It's going to just make you discard your blue cards out of your hand as it hits the battlefield.
Can't be
and then it's going to double its power.
We need a can't be exiled Carnage Tyrant.
If it exiles, it comes back as like double the amount.
Yeah.
The new Carnage Tyrant, twice as uncounterable.
What about Commander? Is this card just like a staple in green stompy decks? Because it works really well with your card draw, right? Anything that's drawing based on creatures like power, you can use it to double the power, double the draw, sack the creature into a menace fall or whatever, like you get it back. Like, isn't this great in any deck like that's using the green like power card draw spells?
Yeah. this will be great in Commander, right? This is just another tool for mono green to have, and Tomer's Ghalta deck will love this.
Ghalta's
like
a one shot, right? Double the power on Ghalta. That's 24 commander damage. Like, whew.
Yeah, and this costs 2 mana to cast.
And
it's
then
also
what?
wrath
You remove
protection,
it?
right?
No.
You remove the Ghalta, so what? Now there's still a 12 power or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, just recast it the next time from the command zone. Yeah, the card seems really good in Commander.
Well, if Ghalta dies, you got to send it to the graveyard, right? If it goes back to the command zone, you don't get the fungus.
Is that how that works?
Wait,
with the
Isn't
rule
it? Did they change? Did they fix that?
I think it goes to the graveyard,
Yeah.
and then you put it from the graveyard to the command
Oh,
zone.
they
So you
fixed
should
that?
get the death
Because
trigger,
Alenda,
yeah.
or not Alenda, whatever the Orzhov vampire was, the one where when it dies you get X vampires, right?
Yeah. They fix it because of that, I think. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, then this is disgusting. Yeah, this is like one of the best cards ever.
Yeah, card's wild.
I think it's gonna be good in 60 card though. Y'all meme on the Timmies. The Timmies are coming for you. We're done with mid range. We're going
I'm on this
stompy.
card. I am worried about all the exile based wraths. Like that's the one thing that makes me skeptical. But outside of that, like I think this card's actually very strong in 60 card formats. At least standard. Too bad green is so bad, but yeah.
Green's gonna be so good. Okay, we got 2 more. Do we have time?
Really?
Okay, we have 2 more before we go to Doctor Who.
This puts green on the map? Okay, all right.
Dude, look how disgusting that is. First, it's like quad power or something.
Crim's just like, oh, I'm just going to Void
You
Rend it
have to
anyway.
use Exile.
Doesn't matter to me, Void Rend. I always got the Void Rend.
I do got the Void Rend.
I think it depends if we have a 3 mana 5/5 or like something big.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, we have a 3 mana 4/4, right? That's still good.
I mean, it has to be a little bigger than that. But if we have like a Ronus, a Lovestruck Beast, like one of those things,
To
then
get the
this thing
cost down,
becomes
yeah.
really good. Which I'm pretty sure we will have because it's a dinosaur set. Okay.
Thronebreaker of
Breaches.
Silence? 5 mana.
Eager Pillager. 3 mana red spell. 3/3. Legendary creature, goblin pirate. First strike, when a pirate you control attacks, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Create a treasure. Target creature can't block. Exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn.
Great in Pirates. We'll see.
So you attack with 3 pirates. You get all of them, right?
You get all of them every turn. I mean, it's like build a Ragavan almost. If you can attack with enough pirates, and it makes something unblockable. I mean, the card's got to be pretty good, right? Is this good enough on its own? Obviously, if you're a pirate deck and you're triggering all the modes every time, I don't know. Like Godric is so strong in the 3-drop slot in Standard. I feel like even though this offers a lot of value, is it better than Godric? Like maybe you play a copy or two. I think it's a really good card, but I don't know. How good is it if you're not a pirate deck?
I mean, if you're not a pirate deck, I don't know if I'm playing it, right? But I guess we'll see. This has potential, depending on what comes out in the set, to be like decent, right? It's just at 3 in red, like there is no red mid-range deck right now, right? Like if this had haste, I think I'd like it more, but as of right now, it's just okay. So I don't know, because I know mono red won't need this because you already have Godric, as you had mentioned.
We don't really have pirates in Standard yet. It's going to have to depend on the new set.
So it has to be pirates? What if you just played it by itself?
That's what I'm wondering. Do you think it's like, is it enough value if you're getting one of these triggers each turn?
So like it's a first striker, so it could attack for free possibly. And it's not Ragavan in the sense that you get the card off your library, which is more valuable than getting your opponent's library, right? So you can just attack, draw a card every turn, kind of, maybe. Threaten the first strike? I don't know.
Grixis, because Xander's Lounge is in Standard, and then you get to Siphon Insight. You get to... yeah, we're cooking. We're
making
cooking.
A creature not block is pretty powerful too in red aggro. Maybe it's just good enough as a red aggro card. Basically, you got to beat Godric and Squee. Those are like kind of the 2 most played 3-drops in mono red. But like we have so many legends these days. Maybe the right way to build your deck is play like 2 of each of the legends, so you're not legend ruling yourself, rather than 3 or 4 of Godric. So
you don't want to get the ended, right? You gotta
play around. Got to play around the end. I mean, definitely an amazing pirate card, though. I would play this in every pirate commander deck for the rest of time. Like if you're getting all 3 of those triggers, whew.
All right. last Ixalan card, Kellen, Daring Traveler. It's an adventure. The adventure thing is a green card, okay? A single green man, a sorcery adventure. Create X map tokens, where X is 1 plus the number of opponents who control an artifact. We don't know what a map is. And then the other side is a 2-mana 2/3. When Kellen attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card with mana value 3 or less, put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it into your graveyard. Human Fairy Scout, by the way.
Oko's son, I think, in lore.
Is it really?
But, yeah, I think this is Oko's son.
It is Oko's
twice.
Do we all kill Kellen for his father's sins?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, you're the son of Oko.
Your father is who?
what would a map token be? That's the real question. I think that like more
be
or
honest
less
with you.
is what determines how good this card is.
It's gonna be a scry, isn't it? It feels like
You
a
think
fancy
scry?
scry, because it's gonna be a fancier scry. Is my guess.
Isn't that
It's a
literally
map.
Explore?
Ooh, what if it's literally just explore? Like explore 1 or whatever. That could sack it to explore. That would work.
I think, that'd be so... Okay, you think
It's
it's
a
like
token-
a clue then? So it's like 2 mana to sack
Oh, it's
to
gotta
explore?
be
It's
like
on a
a
token.
clue or a blood or like it's gotta be one of those
Yeah.
artifact tokens. The question is
But
like
2 mana or one mana explore? Can't be
1
free
mana explore. 1 mana explore is probably fine, right?
Yeah,
Maybe 2 mana explore if you want to be safe. Explore would fit the like adventuring map theme of the card.
Yeah,
Wait, but this doesn't help you, right? I think you gotta be able to leave on top because of the other ability.
I think
Because
so,
you
okay.
want to keep a creature on top so you can draw it. But explore either puts a land in your hand or
Explore
bins
does it. Yeah, the creature. So if it's a land, it goes to your hand. Otherwise, you can mill it or leave it on top.
Oh, you can
So I
leave
think-
it on top. For
Yeah.
explore.
So
Okay.
you could like
Okay, yeah, then
explore
it's
to find a
definitely explore.
creature. It's gotta be
It's
pay 1 or 2 to
100%
explore. Yeah, it's gotta
All right.
be.
Bets
I
on
will
how
s-
much mana it costs to explore, though. 1, 2, 0.
I think 1 might be aggressive, so I think they probably put it at 2.
Yeah, I bet they go 2. Although it could be okay at 1. It can't be 0. That would probably be busted.
Yeah, 2 kind of sucks though. 1 might be suspiciously too good.
Yeah, like that's the problem. 1 feels like it's too good. But then again, blood tokens do it for 1, right? So
Isn't this card
like
good?
yeah?
though?
I think the
Like-
creature half and
Yeah,
the
2 mana,
2/3.
2/3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
good stats. It generates card advantage potentially. It fills your graveyard potentially, and whatever maps do. Like, it seems like this card's designed to be a constructed card. Honestly,
4-color reanimator. Just saying.
Does this mean Oko's gonna be in the set? What does this mean? Does this mean those maps don't matter because they're elk?
I will say I like that they're tying this into the last set. That's something we've really been missing. We've talked a lot about the end of blocks, like sets not really synergizing. I like that we're seeing this adventure card show up in Ixalan and a character show up in Ixalan. So maybe we're starting to see Wizards like doing more of that, like kind of tying the sets together more. But that's Ixalan. But we should probably talk a little bit about Doctor Who before we run out of time. And I gotta ask you guys before we get into the cards. We watched Doctor Who, Richard. What did you think? We watched 2 episodes when we were in Vegas as a crew. We watched Blink, and then we watched one with the really goofy doctor. I don't know the name of it.
Matt Smith
The
is
disrespect.
awesome. Matt
What was the
Smith
episode
is
we watched? The
awesome.
second-
Yeah, what
So,
was the second episode?
This
Do you
sums it
remember,
up. We
Chris?
all remember the
it's-
name and everything of the first one, which is
Yep.
Blink.
The fact that y'all remember the titles of every like episode, that's nuts to me. If you watch Doctor
Well, we had to
Who.
look it up.
I
We were
watched.
given
Well, yeah,
the
yeah.
list.
But
And
like
they said
for someone,
blink a million times. Like, don't blink,
Yeah.
don't blink, don't blink. So it kind of, yeah. It made
Yeah,
me
I mean, like,
remember.
I don't remember the names of any of the episodes. But yeah, the episode you're talking about is the start of Matt Smith's run. So
The one with was it Sarah?
no, Amy Pond. That's when you first meet
Amy
Amy
Pond.
Pond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was throwing food
Yeah,
all
okay.
over because he didn't like it anymore. So he kept throwing food away. I remember that.
Yes. Okay. Here's my conclusion. Blink was amazing. I was like, oh my God, I can so get into Doctor Who. Then I watched the next episode, which was... Which Doctor was it, Krim? The introduction of the
Matt Smith's run. So that would be
Matt
the
Smith's run.
I think that
Yeah.
was the 13th Doctor. I can't remember by numbers anymore.
That one was okay. It suddenly became more
no,
normal.
it was
but
the 12th,
right.
11th Doctor.
It's called the 11th hour, the episode, if people
Yeah.
actually
Okay,
care
the
about
11th
that.
hour. Yes.
Which is the 11th
So that
Doctor.
one was just okay. But Blink was amazing. I would watch Blink over and over again. It was actually really good.
That's kind of where I
so-
landed too. I like the
So
I
I'm
like
a
the Blink
Doctor Who
better.
asterisk fan now. We gotta see the other Doctors. There's lots of them, right? Maybe we like other Doctors better.
Realistically, you only need to watch. I love the 10th Doctor so much that I think that's the only, which is the one in Blink. But yeah, I also love the 11th Doctor. But you're seeing Doctor Who has a lot of range. And yes, I know that the horror, the spooky side of it was cool, and the darker side of it. But then there's the zany, the wild, the silly that I also love, which is a lot of what Matt Smith does well.
Oh, I will say though, Blink was very confusing until Tomer spoiled it for us by telling us like what was generally happening and like where the plot was going, and then it suddenly made a lot more sense. It was like much easier to follow. But it's kind of like this mystery, and it's like really hard to follow at the beginning if you don't know what exactly is going on. But yeah,
And I think part of it too is we were just coming in very in the dark, so we didn't even really know like, oh, he's a time traveler, like some of the very basic stuff that you would probably know if you're a Doctor Who fan. So I think that also made it a little more confusing until he explained it. But once he explained it, that was such a good episode.
okay. Let's hit up some Doctor Who cards. Thank goodness there's some cards from Blink so that we can know what we're talking about.
I know this.
We're gonna start with the card named Blink. It's a Dimir Saga. So 4 mana, 1 and 2. Choose target creature. Its owner shuffles it into their library, then investigates. Oh wait, I read that wrong. 1 and 3 is that, and then 2 and 4. Create a 2/2 black. Oh no, spoilers. Can we even say this? Okay. Create a 2/2 black alien angel artifact creature token with first strike, vigilance, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, this permanent isn't a creature until end of turn. I feel they just kind of spoiled the whole thing there. Are they allowed
Yeah,
to do
you
this?
don't even get to watch the episode anymore. That's it. Those 2 paragraphs just describe it all. Is this
What do we
card-
think of this? What do we even do with this?
So you get double removal, which is cool, and shuffling in gets rid of indestructible. I don't know if those alien angels are very good, though. It seems very easy for them to turn off, right? Like, if your opponent doesn't want you to block or whatever, they just, like, cast a spell and they don't do anything. So, I like the removal. Not sure about the tokens.
I think the tokens, but I don't know. I like all of it. It just seems fun, but I don't know how good it is as a card. I just like it. Like the fact that it has like, you know, David Tennant on it, the artwork. I'm a fanboy. You see, like yeah. So like, I'm just like, I don't. This card doesn't have to be good for me to play.
Why is it like photos or are those like renderings? I can't see. Let me zoom in. Oh no, those are drawings of the characters.
They're drawings
Okay.
of the characters.
But they're actually drawings of the actual like actors and actresses though.
What do you think about how this is structured? Like the 1, 3, 2, 4. Isn't that like super confusing? And a lot of people are going to play it wrong. Like, why Wizards? Why? That's like, what a horrible design choice. I get that they're trying to fit all the text on there is the problem, but geez.
They wanted you to make angels not all at once, right? They wanted you to be like, oh, blink, angel, right? But
yeah,
it's confusing. People will definitely play them out of order.
I probably will play them out of order, yeah.
Okay, Crisis of Conscience. This looked like Farewell to me, but it's not. Because it's a 6-mana sorcery. Choose one. It's mono white. Destroy all tokens. Destroy all non-land, non-token permanents.
Definitely not Farewell, but I like this card. I like that it's for a token deck, right? In a token deck, I think this would be part of my Wrath suite. I like that one of the upsides of Wizards designing cards for Commander is we keep getting these thematic Wraths that are bad unless you're in a specific archetype. And I think more archetypes having stuff like Crisis of Conscience over Farewell is like a positive for the format. So I play it in tokens. Otherwise, there's just way better options.
When I read this card, I thought it said destroy all lands. And non-token permits. I was like, oh, this is hot. They're coming in hot with this one.
Okay. Do you remember the mechanic Fuse? So Fuse is a split card where you can cast either half, and then you can combine the mana value and get both halves. Or not the mana value, but the mana cost and get both halves. So we have Gallifrey Falls, 4 red. It deals 4 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. And then no more, 2 and a white. Any number of target creatures you control phase out.
What do you think, Richard? You're the white creature player. Like, is this card good?
So good. This is the Fairies Pro Light. Just 3 mana, phase out your team is very good. And you can get a Wrath attached to it if you're, well, you have to be Boros, right? But you can get a Wrath attached to it. You can do it all together. You can try to get the table here. So I think this card is very good. They printed a lot of good phasing out cards though, right? So now you got to kind of like tier list them and figure out like what actually fits your deck. But this is very playable, and this is a contender when you're building a deck.
Color identity is the big challenge, right? Just because you can't play it in mono white.
Just cut it in half.
Is the red mode is the red mode good? Like, I feel like it is very rarely going to be cast as a red card, and it's mostly going to be a white card.
The option is there.
I think
when you need a sweeper, you have a sweeper.
It's 9 mana,
but
No, just 6 mana.
4 damage.
Oh yeah. But you unless you sweep, you want to sweep yourself, which feels kind of bad, right?
Yeah, but that'd be a normal sweeper, right?
Yeah, but for 6 mana, then wouldn't I just want to farewell or austere command even?
You get the upside though of phasing out. I like it. I think it's a good card. Yeah. It's just a little limited because you got to be Boros and can't play it in mono white, but.
And then you have to be playing Boros, which is unfortunate.
That's the drawback.
Have we talked about the goodest boy? K9 Mark.
K9 Mark. Okay.
1.
It's a blue. It's a single blue. It's a 1/1 legendary artifact creature robot dog.
There it is.
Negative. As long as K9 is untapped, other legendary creatures you control have ward 1. Affirmative. 1 and a blue tap. Target legendary creature can't be blocked this turn. And it's a Doctor's Companion.
Yeah.
I thought we were going somewhere with the goodest boy here, but the goodest boy barely does anything.
What? Excuse you?
Hold on. It adds a color to your deck. I think that's its main power, right? Like, you get an extra color.
Yo, you ever get destroyed by a legendary because it can't be blocked? Yeah, that happens a lot. This card is okay. It's a dog. That's the only reason why I like it. It's really cute. It's cute.
Could you play this in the 99? Like, is there any what about a Ghalta? Obviously not Ghalta literally because of color identity, but could you play this in a Voltron deck just to kind of protect your commander and try to make it unblockable? Is that a thing, or is this purely a partner card with Doctor's Companion?
I mean, you could, right? Jeskai Voltron could exist, or maybe something like that. But
it does exist, but it wouldn't run this card. I think Seth nailed it. This exists to add blue to your Doctor's deck, right? But
it's so cute.
It is cute.
It is cute. Yes, I agree.
Okay, here is okay. Is this even worth a saga? Is my question to you. Day of the Moon, 3 in a red, 1, 2, and 3 are all the same. Choose a creature card name, then goad all creatures with the name chosen for Day of the Moon. That's it. Apparently, some aliens came down and mind controlled people. That's what
do those words even mean? All creatures with a name chosen for Day of the Moon.
So you can choose a different creature name every chapter. So you can be like Ghalta, K9 Mark 1, whatever.
Okay,
right?
Okay.
And then they all get goaded every turn, right?
So the question is, would I play this in my Furkrag deck? That's whenever it comes to a Go card, I'm like, would I play it in a dedicated Go deck? I probably would. I think it's it's probably good enough, right? You get to goad the best thing on the battlefield, and then the next turn, the next best thing, and you're going to get like protection for 3 turn cycles from the best thing. That seems fine. I don't know if it needs to be a saga. Maybe there's a more, another way you could print a similar card, but like, I like it for a goad deck. It seems good enough. No? Not good enough?
I mean, it's 3 mana, right? So then you sit on it, over 3 turns. You kind of just sit. It's there. You pick 1 creature. It just goads 1 thing.
So you goad a creature basically for 3 turns, another creature for 2 turns, and then another creature for 1 turn, essentially.
And if your
this is like a very complicated thing.
Got him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't think like it's a fun and flavorful card, right? It's a fun, like, you know, cool card to see, but like, is it actually good enough in a goad deck? There's so many goad spells that are more efficient, and this only goads 1 thing every turn.
But is there anything that goads for 3 turns or perpetually? Oh God,
not
forever.
Not typically.
No.
Like, isn't it like, okay, if your opponents are playing like 1 Voltron Commander, 1 Ghalta or something, like this is like kind of I win the game, or at least for several turns. Like I goad Ghalta for 3 turns in a row, good luck. I goad Slicer for 3 turns in a row, like good luck, right? Like,
and I think it's worth mentioning, like, I'm just looking on Scryfall, there's still only in all of Magic 53 cards with the text goad on them. So, like, there's not that many goad cards still. So, for me, this is a card that, like, will it always be in my Furkrag deck? Probably not. But for the short term, just because there's still just, like, not that much goad support, this relatively new mechanic, I think it's good enough for the short term, for sure. If your deck is actually, like, taking advantage of goading. Would I play it for value as removal? No. But if I'm, like, drawing cards when a goaded creature deals damage or whatever with Furkrag, then I think it would be worth it for my deck.
That's the thing, like not every goad deck's gonna play this. That's because, and even though there's only 53 goad cards, like, you don't need to play all 53 goad cards to be a goad deck. You could still be.
Those are the rules, Grim.
Yeah, you gotta play them all.
Okay.
You gotta put them all.
Then never mind.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. Is this card? Is this the new One Ring? Okay, it's an artifact. It's 3 mana. River Song's Diary. Imprint. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell from their hand, exile it instead of putting it into a graveyard. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 more cards exiled with River Song's Diary, choose one of them at random. You may cast it without paying its mana cost.
This card is hot garbage.
I love this card. I don't know if it's good, but boy, does it seem.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my Chaos Wands, and like, I love those effects. I think they're super fun in a game of Commander. Is this card actually good? Probably not. Like, it's 3 mana. You need 4 spells cast before it does anything, and you have to make it to your upkeep, and the spell gets random, so you're probably getting, like, a Ponder or something. Once it gets going, though, it's, like, free value every turn, right? Like, it is, like, gonna add up pretty quickly. So I think it's, like, super fun, but do you think it's
funny?
good, Richard?
It's funny graveyard hate against a Spellslinger deck.
It does, yeah. No passing
it's
flames against me.
So if it was non-creature spell, I guess it would work because you'd be exiling enchantments and stuff, right? So how many instant sorceries actually get cast? But if I just go by like how many cards I draw off an Esper Sentinel, like a lot of cards happen in like 1 turn cycle.
No,
this
they
thing
don't.
is on if you just flip 1 turn cycle, but this is only instant sorceries, and this stops. I think in reality, this just gets you killed for no reason, right? Because if you're sitting there with like some 8 mana instant or sorcery, you're not going to cast it into this because
Unless
you're
you can
afraid
win.
your opponent will flip it off the 25% chance or whatever. So they're going to be, I'm just going to kill you instead and then cast my spells. But like, this is hilarious. Although this also suck because if people play counter spells or something, they get exiled under this, and then during your turn, you get a counter spell. You're like, thanks, thanks, guys.
Yeah, hooray. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm curious. Is this actually passable? Or is this,
No.
what was that terrible card you tried to sell me on, Seth? The one where you have to roll like a d20 or something to... Like Animage Graveyard.
Oh,
the
no.
Deck of Many Things.
Yeah, the Deck of Many Things, or the Book of Many
Oh.
Things. Yeah.
Oh, baby, yeah, that card.
I love that card. But I mean, that card's actually good. That actually draws you cards. It gets it recursing from your graveyard. This card, I'm very convinced, is not good. But I'm also very convinced it's fun, which means I'll probably throw in some decks.
Is it
But
playable, though? Or is it terrible?
No. I think
No,
I think
it's
for all the
terrible?
reasons you mentioned, like, doesn't do anything right away. A lot of the instants people play are like counter spells that you aren't going to get any value out of. And it's going to scare people more than it should if someone actually gets cast something big and gets it under there. So I think it's probably not. Like, and it doesn't, like, what deck would you play it in? There's no building around it or anything, right?
Nothing.
It's just like
value.
you just
throw it out
in there and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But it's not even
Yeah.
value. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's,
You know, you're just going to keep hitting the painful truths every time, just like
Yeah,
Chaos
yeah.
Wand, like the cards that don't do anything. So
Chaos
I'm
Wand
gonna
is
jam
better.
it for fun, I think, but I don't think it's actually.
I wish you could
strong.
pay it. You could play the card until your next upkeep. So if you get a counter spell, then it just like sits there and you can use it whenever you feel like it. I feel that's like
That
a
would
good quality of life improvement for this card.
be sweet.
Yeah. Okay. Those are most of the Doctor Who cards. We actually got a ton of Doctor Who cards already from the previous weeks, and then Doctor Who's coming out in full force preview season this week. So be sure to check back on MTG previews for all the new Doctor Who cards.
And Tomer's going to be doing daily spoiler videos on the MTG Goldfish Commander YouTube channel starting today, I think. So if you want to see a full Commandery breakdown all week, all the new Doctor Who decks, make sure to check that out as well. So I think that brings us to the end of episode 453 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. No fish mail this week. Richard, where should people send in their fish mail questions for next week?
All right, send them on Twitter to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
So that brings us to the end of episode 453. Thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks to Richard and Krim for hanging out. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about Doctor Who and whatever else goes on in the world of magic. So until then, have an amazing week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.